My name is Ken Key. I'm an elder, not just old, an elder, a member of the Coral Ridge Presbyterian Church session. The session is the ruling and shepherding body of our church. My wife and I have been members here since 1973, before this building was finished, when we came to Fort Lauderdale for me to teach and coach at Westminster Academy. This morning, Pastor Rob is going to preach the last of a series of sermons under the heading, Habits of Grace. Today's sermon is on the principles of tithes and offerings from Malachi 3. I'm here this morning to give you some encouragement on this subject. 45 years ago, in a new members class in the previous building on Commercial Boulevard, Dr. Kennedy taught us the means of grace, things that should result from and demonstrate that we have been granted grace from God. One of those means of grace, and one of the habits of grace that Rob will preach on today, is tithing. At that time, as Christians of 15 years already, we had never thought about tithing before. It was explained to us that tithing was giving back to God 1/10 of what He had given to us in financial blessings. At that time, I was a first-year teacher at WA, earning a total of $8,000 a year, not a month. And my wife earned about half that much. We quickly calculated that our monthly tithe figure would be about $100. And that seemed to be an enormous, maybe even exorbitant amount for someone like us. Our thought process might have gone something like this. Well, there just isn't $100 left over after we pay our stuff. But we were taught that the tithe wasn't a leftover gift, but instead the first tenth. If we are indeed eternally grateful for the huge gift of eternal life, then our gift of gratitude back to God ought to come first. It was, after all, our demonstration of thanks for what God has already done for us. Now, please understand, this is not a prosperity gospel preaching. While God does promise blessings for us when we are faithful in our giving, we don't give in order to earn blessings. So, our first tithe check went into the offering plate in 1973. Imagine our surprise when later that very first week, a refund check from a Michigan utility company appeared in our mailbox. Just more than the tithe check had been. Next month, it was an overdue paycheck from a company I had worked for in Michigan. Month by month, God continued to show us that we could trust Him day by day. It went on and on. In 1977, our son was born in Miami under an adoption agreement. Before we could even meet him or hold him, he had run up medical bills exceeding 1/2 of our annual income. When we asked God, what are we going to do? He gave us a peace, enabling us to move forward with our plan to adopt. When we went to check him out of the hospital, we were told that a foundation had paid the entire medical bill. We owed nothing. That gift from God alone was more than twice what we had given in tithes in 4 years. But God did even more. He changed us. God changed our level of contentment. He changed our wanter. We learned to be truly content with what we were given. We didn't hunger for stuff, for more. We were content with our little Chevy Vega that just kept running and running and running. with our little house with a gravel roof that outlasted every roof in the neighborhood, with appliances that got old but just kept on working. God made our stuff sufficient, it was enough for us, and efficient, it just kept working. A few years ago, I was surfing a NASCAR website and just out of the blue entered a sweepstakes. On April Fool's Day of that year, my wife and I won a brand new car. Have you ever met anyone that won a car? God gave us one. But again, it's not just about stuff. By changing our contentment levels and teaching us how to be careful with our spending, God has enabled my wife and I to invest and save a very comfortable amount for our retirement. Even recently, when it was time for me to retire from teaching, God enabled me to build a successful little business doing exactly what I trained and love to do. Through all of this, God has taught us to trust Him, to be faithful, grateful, and generous. So when God brings up an opportunity to us for an offering above the tithe, we know we can trust Him. We know how to be grateful. When He shows us needs and stirs our hearts, His goodness to us in the past enables us to take action in the present, trusting with confidence for our future. So we can give generously and confidently. So as Pastor Rob preaches today, and as you ask God this week to make clear to you what your response will be to this challenge, my wife Kathy and I hope that our testimony will give you an example of God's goodness that will encourage you and your faithfulness in exploring tithing to Coral Ridge Church and offering additional gifts to ministry organizations elsewhere. May we here at Coral Ridge become an obedient, generous, and blessed people. In our corporate confession today, we said to God, "O God, transform our timid lives by the power of your Spirit. Inflame us with a desire to do your will and be your faithful people for the sake of your Son. May that be us this coming year." Thank you.